Hey, what's up guys? Chris here, back with another tea talk. Tonight we're drinking another Japanese black tea. This one is from the Oishi Tea Farm on Tsushima Island, which is halfway between Korea and Kyushu, which is the of the three main islands of Japan. It is the bottom island, which we have talked a lot about in these videos in the past. So the Oishi Tea Farm is a family-run tea farm on the island of on the main island of Tsushima. Tsushima is an archipelago, so there's hundreds of islands, but this one is the main island, and that's where the Oishi family lives and produces the tea. So like I said, it's halfway between Korea and Kyushu, and it's administratively part of Nagasaki Prefecture. So although Nagasaki is like pretty far away in terms of like government buildings and stuff like that, it is still part of Nagasaki Prefecture, or like what in the US would be like the state of New York or something like that. And so let's talk about Japanese black tea a little bit again. So as I said in my last video about Japanese black tea, there is a tradition of producing black tea or wa kolcha in Japan, although it is much less popular in production compared to the production of Japanese green tea. But Korea has a long tradition of producing black tea, particularly the balyo or balyo cha, like I guess varietal or style of tea, which is known to have like no bitterness in it. That's the sort of draw of the balyo cha. So black tea in general can often be very strong, and there can be some bitterness to it, but like I said, that balyo cha does not. One of the qualities of it is that it's not bitter. So one of the interesting things about this tea from Tsushima, so in its history, there have been settlers from Korea and there have been settlers from Japan. So in terms of production, I'm sure there is a sort of a mix of production traditions. And I would say, so I've had this tea before, like before this sort of video was made. I've had it in the last couple weeks, and it does feel like a mix of Japanese black tea and Korean black tea, and there is almost no bitterness. There's almost a chocolatey aroma and taste to it, as I'll taste it again right now, but yes, so it's like that chocolatey and almost woody flavor that although I don't drink, I imagine like whiskey would share this flavor or aroma. But let's talk a little bit about Tsushima Island more in depth. So maybe some of you have played the game Ghost of Tsushima, which came out in, I guess, 2019 or early 2020, sort of at the start of the pandemic. Although I'm not a big video gamer, I did buy this game because it was interesting and it did keep me busy throughout the pandemic, playing through it. So the game takes place during the 1274 Mongol invasion of Tsushima Island. So let's backtrack a little bit. Like I said, there was settlers from Korea and there was settlers from Japan, but Tsushima Island officially became a part of Japan in the 6th century, the late 6th century. And then, so from the 6th century on, it was part of Japan. And then in 1274, the Mongol Empire invaded the island as part of their eventual plan to invade Japan. So these Mongol forces were led by Kublai Khan, who was a grandson of Genghis Khan and the emperor at the time of the Yuan dynasty of China. So the Yuan dynasty was the Mongol dynasty of China and the successor of the Mongol Empire, in which Genghis Khan was founded, I guess, started. And, you know, Kublai Khan had made Korea part of this Yuan dynasty. Korea became a vassal state to China. And because of this, Kublai Khan was able to use Korea as a starting point for his invasion into Japan. So forces left Korea on the 2nd of November of 1274 and landed on Tsushima on the 4th of November. And they were met with some resistance, but eventually, within the next couple days, they were able to take over the control of the whole island. So the video game is a little bit different. You're sort of this samurai sort of fighting a lone battle against the forces of the Mongol Empire. And, you know, you go through, you play different missions, and eventually you sort of drive the Mongols off the island, which didn't really happen. So the Mongols took control of the island, and then, you know, like I said, it was part of this grand scheme to take over Japan. So eventually the Mongol forces moved on to another island called Iki, and eventually tried to take over the island of Kyushu via Hakata Bay in Fukuoka. So in 1274, they were unsuccessful in taking over Kyushu. There was like a breeze that kind of some Mongol forces landed onto the beaches of Hakata Bay, but not the whole force. And eventually, like, the Mongols went away. But they did come back in 1281, and they took over the island of Tsushima again as they were making their way to the Japanese mainland. But this time, they were met with bigger resistance. There was tens of thousands of Japanese forces to meet them at Tsushima. But again, they were pretty much defeated. There was over 300 islanders were killed in the resistance, and the Mongols were ruthless in their sort of punishment of the islanders. They went after men, women, and children, which in the video game they also do, but again, I guess it was sort of a mix of timelines there for the sake of the game and the gameplay. And again, you know, so the Mongols move on from Tsushima, and they go to Hakata Bay again in Fukuoka and on the island of Kyushu, and they attempt to take over Japan again. But this is the first time we hear the word kamikaze. So on the 15th of August, 1281, there's a giant typhoon that wipes out most of the Mongol navy and navy's fleet, and you know, Japan is spared a war with the Mongol Empire. So this word kamikaze means divine wind, and this sort of miracle that occurred to sort of drive away and defeat the Mongol navy was given the name kamikaze. But this untouchable and undefeated feeling was sort of resurrected during World War II, and that feeling of, you know, Japan can't be defeated. The gods will interfere. they'll defeat the enemy, something will happen, and unfortunately, as we all know, that wasn't the case. And this word kamikaze was sort of um, bastardized, for lack of a better word, and it was used for the Japanese suicide pilots. They were young boys, like usually in their teens, 15, 16 years old, that would, either fly motorless gliders into American warships, or they would fly their planes, like regular planes, into American warships in order to destroy the American Navy's attempt to invade the Japanese mainland and other parts of the Pacific where Japan had occupied, which was a terribly tragic thing to think about and to have happened, especially to people, to children that had to do that for the sake of their country. But yeah, so I thought this was a little this was interesting because of the game and how popular it was, and just that the tea itself was interesting. It's a mix of like Korean and Japanese tastes, according to me. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Take care.